Also, welcome back to another episode of It Is What It Is podcast. I'm your host, Cody Kelly. Look, I appreciate all my guests. I do mean all of them. Thank you for tuning in. But if you want to keep seeing amazing content, you have to do two things. The first thing is you have to follow me on Instagram at CVMK33. And the second thing, soon as my banner loads, you have to connect with me. There you go. Via YouTube at CV Space K. Podcast, wherever your podcast preference is, whatever your podcast preference is, we are there. If it's Apple, if it's Spotify, if it's Google, Stitcher, you can name it, we are there. I have an amazing episode entitled When to Leave Professionally. We're going to really examine the exit strategy when it comes to professionals. So I invited some high-ranking execs that work either for corporate America and they consultative services. I mean, these two ladies are dynamic. There are leaders in this conversation. So with that being said, Dr. DaNine, Tonya, how are you guys doing?
Wonderful. How are you?
Yeah, how are you, Cody?
I'm doing well. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I am a blessed man. And I won't go into details. But everything is everything has been better. As the Saints would say, he's been better to me than I've been to myself. So let's get into it. Dr. D, I'm gonna start with you.
Okay.
What are the challenges of staying in corporate America? I mean, why would anybody want to leave?
So sometimes it's more like, why would anybody want to stay, to be very honest? So why would anybody want to leave? I think it depends on who the anybody's you're saying. So for me, because a lot of what I do works specifically with diversity, equity, and inclusion, I think about different subsets. So why do folk want to stay? You have to make people want to stay. I think sometimes people think they have a good product. And so because you have this wonderful business for namesake, that it is a wonderful environment. And it's just not that way always. It looks good on the outside. You ever had something that looked so good, but when you tasted it, it was like, oh, this is awful. But I got to eat it because I don't have anything else to eat. And so why do people, I think about why people stay. Some people stay because they have to. Some people leave because they have to, but I know there has to be an environment. There has to be a culture. There has to be people there that are connected, and there have to be people that are authentic and true to who they are. And oftentimes some of that is missing. And so I just believe that if we can create environments where people want to be, where people want to stay, where you are happy to go to work. When's the last time you were excited to get up and just go to work versus saying, do I have to go? Do I have to adult today? And so I do believe the thing. What are you laughing?
I'm trying to behave.
I do believe, and so you see how I changed that question all around, that we've got to bring that. And it has to be infectious. And it has to be authentic, because what I know is this. I don't care how much people say or what people say or do, how they make you feel and how you feel when you're in a place makes the difference. Because if I had to ask either of you, what motivates you? And you got to really say, what motivates you? What motivates you?
Me personally?
Mm-hmm. You personally, what motivates you?
What motivates me? Well, I don't want to be. I don't want. I don't. Let me phrase this correctly. I don't want to have to move in with any. Yeah, I don't want to move in with my mama. I want to be able to be an adult, right? As a adult, as a human, as a man, as a husband, like I just don't. I don't want to be that guy that falls into like a lot of the songs category. So I don't want to be a scrub, I guess is what I'm trying to get to. So basically, at the end of the day, that's really my motivating factor. I'm not trying to be honest with you. I'm trying to be honest. I'm not trying to be funny, but I think for me is the motivating factor is I have been blessed with an opportunity and a gift, and I want to see how far I can take it. I want to see how much of an impact that I can make, right? A positive impact. And I want to see really what that ceiling is, and I want to break through it. So that's my internal driver. And because of just, experiences that I experienced growing up, that's what like gets me going. I agree. The culture aspect of it is huge because if there's a lot of toxicity, I don't care what you're selling. I don't care where you work. You're going to be like, I don't want to deal with this. Right. So, unfortunately, most adults have to be honest with themselves and come to the realization that we do a lot of things out of obligation, obligatory actions so that we can maintain, sustain, and continue in the way that we go about existing. Is it the most healthiest thing? Probably not. Is it something that we should aspire to? Definitely not. Is there a better alternative? That has always been the issue. And that's what we're going to cover here. So with that being said, VP Tonya,
Yes,
you agree
Cody.
with the cultural aspect? I mean, why should somebody stay, right? What's going on?
I totally agree with the cultural aspects, right? That Dr. DaNine talked about. If I can do a lot of things on autopilot, right? I think we all learn how to do the autopilot thing. I'm a mom, so I definitely can do the autopilot thing when I need to, but that only goes so far, right? At some point, you get tired of doing the same thing in the same way in an unhealthy environment. So, but again, like you both have said, sometimes we stay in corporate America or we stay in certain jobs or positions out of obligation. I have responsibilities. I have things I need to do. And so while I may have aspirations and goals and desires, reality can sometimes hit us in the face. I mean, look at 2020. There are probably tons of people that wanted to leave their job before 2020 hit, and then 2020 happened, and it was like, it's a little easier just to stay here right now, even if I'm not happy or reaching my potential. But that runs out. And so once that feeling creeps up in you that you're like, my talents aren't being utilized, my brain isn't being exercised, my goals aren't being met, I can't just do the status quo anymore. That's when the feeling, that feeling is time to go. That is what that feeling is called, in my opinion. So, I mean, I absolutely think, I've done it. I've certainly done it where I've stayed out of obligation in certain environments that I probably should have grown out of well before the moment hit. But you find those other things like, oh, I am still needed here in this way. Let me reinvent myself over here, which brings me another level of joy and extends that feeling out a little more of it's time to go. But, again, that's short-lived. It's like if the long-term desire isn't being fulfilled, whatever that is, it's time to go.
But see, what's funny to me with both of you is most people in corporations in corporate America will say automatically, or especially people in leadership, it's the money. Neither one of you said that. And so you talked about the passion. You talked about not have to go back to your mama house. You talked about your children. You see, and so extant research supports these things. And I've been asking people this for years, and money is usually not the top, but that shows us that folks don't know us well enough to even know what motivates us. So if you don't know what motivates me and I sit beside you, work with you and for you, then no, I'm not going to stay because you don't care about me. And that's why the George Floyd effect had such a large effect and impact on so many people, and why these people who are so woke now and things going on, because if you really think about the culture and you think about everything, people began to see things just differently. And it's a shame it took that, because how many hundreds and thousands have died before that? It's something about 2020 between COVID, between civil unrest, distress, and everything else that made people say, you know what, not today, not anymore. I'm not going to do it. And you step out on faith, or you step out on whatever anybody else calls it, and you're doing something different because you're doing it for yourself by what is motivating you and your passions.
I completely agree with that. And like, it even seems a little different with ages, right? Like sometimes when you're in your 20s, let's say, you're motivated by money a lot of times, right? Like maybe you're not as goal oriented or aspirational, but even people in their 20s right now in this environment are like, this is not good enough for me. Even if they want to pay me hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's not speaking to my passion. It's not speaking to my goals. When I was in my 20s, I was just trying to make some money. And so, but now I agree, Dr. DaNine, like people in their 20s in 2021 are like, no, enough. I want something different.
Well said. Well said. I like it. Let me put this FYI just in case my mom's listening. My mom's an amazing person, by the way. I don't mind living with my mom. I'm grown. I'm good and grown. I'm what Cedric the Entertainer would say, a grown man, right? Like I just don't. It's just weird, I love her. So my mom knows I was on the phone with her today. So anybody out there be like, so you don't want to live with Evangelist Sherrick? I'm like, look, my mom is fine. I just don't, I'm just too grown.
Listen, when she stops cooking for you, then you'll feel some kind of way.
No, that's true. That's true.
Tell my son that now.
Yeah, that's true. We talk about, staying for the wrong reasons. And unfortunately, most organizations don't even know what drives their employee base. And I think that they try to simplify it to a mathematical equation. So, which is crazy because if they say that money is the driver, but yet I haven't seen a lot of raises been given. Matter of fact, when the 2017 $1 trillion tax cut was given, only an average, I think it was 1 to 3% as far as employee salaries actually went up. So it hasn't been this dramatic increase. So it can't be money if that is the ultimate driver. We talk about playing the game, and I think this is when it starts to really unfold. There is work. Work can have its hard moments. It can really take a lot of dialing in and focus, long hours, but if it was just work, it would be okay. It's the other stuff. It's playing the game. It's not CCing certain individuals, CCing certain individuals. Don't get caught BCing anybody. All the unwritten rules that will get you fired without really a justification behind it, right? Why do we have to, and Dr. DaNine, I'll start with you. Why do we have to play this game?
So I tell people all the time, but maybe because I'm in my 40s and I don't play games. I didn't even like recess growing up, for real. And so I've just got finished reading this book, Black Fatigue. And I find it is by different racial things because really some folk don't even recognize they're in this rat race of playing games. You say, why do we play the game? Usually we play the game because we want to belong. Usually we play the game because we don't know any other way because that's all we know. And we feel we have to do that. But as soon as we think we know the rules change, but nobody told us. So I don't even think we need to play the game. Because when somebody's, I tell them all the time, you're playing checkers, baby, I'm playing chess. I'm not playing these type of games. I'm too authentic for that because people's lives are at stake. And so all of the things that some folk want to do or they call or mask is usually about incompetence and things they cannot do. I believe that you have to surround yourself with brilliant people who don't know, who can really bring you to another level and who are able to support your leadership. But in the same token, you can't know everything. A jack of all trades is a master of none, right? Now, don't get me wrong. You're in charge, Cody. You need to be able to sit in everybody's seat and keep it afloat just in case I leave. But in the same token, I value you, you value me. So I think we need to stop playing games. We need to, change the dialogue. We need to change the trajectory of the way things are going. But I think people are too afraid because they hide behind the game plan. They hide behind the mask. But the funny part about it is, those folk who don't know what they're doing. Have you ever just sat and looked at somebody and you be like, they don't know what the devil they doing. They don't have a clue. You know this, right? And they think they playing a game and you sitting right over there laughing like, I'm just going to sit here and wait till it all falls and I got to help come clean it up. And so in all honesty, that culture is what makes it so toxic. because folk won't even be honest with themselves or others. Now, you can lie to other people. That's your choice. But when you look in the mirror every day and you lie to yourself,
right,
you're a dangerous person. And there are too many people lying to themselves and lying to others. I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm over here giggling because I'm like, did you see my calendar today? And I've said that to my teams in the past. I don't play checkers, I play chess. I think what you just said about it being different based on background, race, ethnicity is so very true. I have looked around myself several times and been the only brown face. And if I'm the only brown face, there's a game I have to play. And I know it. And in the times I haven't played the game, I've been treated like the brown face in the room, the angry Black woman in the room. And it's unfortunate. It's disheartening that when you look around and you don't see anyone like you, and you have the seat at the table, you are almost required to play the game to keep the seat. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting. And when you have those moments where you really just want to shed it, you can only do it to a certain level. Yeah. Whereas other people around the room probably can do it all day, every day, as often as they would prefer or like to. So I think some of us play the game because we don't have a choice but to play it to keep the seat. But I'll tell you, as someone who has played that game, it is the definition of madness, exhausting, and you know, it's frustrating that you can't just be you. You know, I would just like to be a real, candid individual. And most times I've gotten to a point in my career where I am. But, you know, and so I've looked past those moments where I've decided that, okay, I'm just going to be Tonya. And if that's not okay, you can tell me it's not okay, and we can work that out. I did not think that way 10 years ago. Right. 10 years ago, I was that girl, and then I was angry Black girl, and then I had to undo her to stay in the race, if you will. Now I'm finding myself, you know, blessed, thank you, but unapologetically me. Right. And if that's not okay, and I've done this for the last 10, 15 years, then I need to pick up my bag and go elsewhere to do it.
See, Tonya, I'm glad you said that, because I told someone that today. Let me tell you what's interesting about that leadership table, both of y'all, is this. I like, you know, you go into a room and there's a huge conference table, and no matter how many seats are filled, there are 2 or 3 seats left, but if they're at the head, no one sits there, because you know who's going to sit at those seats, right? They're already reserved. Mm-hmm. Now, if you sit there, they're going to be like, oh, Cody, you better get up. That's so-and-so seat. Oh, Tonya, you better, because you know.
It's not your seat.
Let me tell you one thing about leadership tables, and I understand, because we all have gone in places where we're the only people that look like us. We're the only people who may be like us, whatever that may be, gender, sexual orientation, anything. It could be lots of things, right? Let me tell you one thing I've learned about a table. See, it's something about your expertise. It's something about your level of commitment. It's something about, well, I call it favor, whatever you want to call it, that even where you sit, I may not even be able to sit around the table because you relegate me to the galley. That table will shift in such a way that expertise will come forward, and people will need you and need your voice. You can yell from the galley, or whoever was at the head will no longer be able to be there because of that shift. And that's what I like about being an expert in your area and what you do, because no matter what you create for and with someone, when you leave, that's your brand. I don't care where we are. See, because what happens is this: what is imprinted on you is given to you. We bring these gifts and talents. Why do you think it was about the slave trade and why it lasted so long? Why have we been so resilient for so long? It wasn't just about, it was who they were. It's who we are. It's in our DNA. We are the corporations. So when we leave, guess what? They're missing things. So I would beg to say it would behoove them to treat people well, because we are the ones we may not get the millions and billions, but I sure know we make it for folk.
Hello.
Could you imagine if you got a portion of the money that you actually bring in to the companies that you work for, what it would look like? What a check look like when you make, the money you bring in a year for a company? What would your check look like if you got that? I'm just saying.
Wouldn't need reparations if they.
Hey, that is reparations. Give me what you owe me.
No,
They need what you owe me.
Reclaimed. Mm-hmm.
No, that makes sense. There's a lot to unpack there. Let's do this. So, Tonya, how long did it take to evolve? You talk about that used to be. I talk about my own professional journey. So, let me not go into full details, but let's say there was a point in time. I was like, let me be careful. I was saying, so wow. I was like Ben Carson, and what I mean by that, like I was like, yeah, whatever, right? Then I started to be like, I can't do this anymore, Then I became really like, not like I am a revolutionary, but I became really that dude, And like now, I think I'm in what I would call my Barack phase. I just like, I laugh at everything now. I'll be like, my cadence is slowed down. Like it doesn't even, because I know in my head, I done already cussed you out about 100 different times. You just ain't heard damn word. But all I'm thinking is like, you know what? I'm good. I'm gonna let you have that. So talk to us, because look, when you're in this, right, in the mode and the beast of it, there are certain norms and there are certain things you just have to like get your mind around, right? And it's a struggle for a lot of people, and it's a hard evolution until you get comfortable being you and still learning how not to trip over a certain setup, right? So how long did it take you?
That is a really good question. And if I'm honest with myself, it's a daily, weekly, monthly reevaluation of remember who you are. Remember who you are. Like it's like, hello, the Lion King up in here. My Mufasa is in the ceiling. But honestly, imposter syndrome is real.
Sure. And
it doesn't have to be a bad thing, right? I've seen myself in that moment, like, oh, girl, you just stepped on into that. Yes, I did. Didn't know what I was doing, but I stepped on into it, because sometimes you just have to recognize, like, be you and let it go. Now, in my first 5 years of my career, could I do that? Mm-mm. I was like, yeah, okay, sure. What you need me to do? Okay, yeah, in my head being like, now, now, 5 years of that, and I was like, okay, I'm tired of being the girl, the yes girl. Like, I know that I can challenge the status quo. I can challenge the thought process and question, like, and do it professionally. It doesn't have to be unprofessional. It can be done I lean on my minor in speech and my bachelor's in PR quite often. I can wordsmith you, cut you with a smile.
Right.
Thank you so much. It can be done, but it's intentional. You have to like really think through, how do I get my point across and I'm heard, right? Hear what I'm saying, hear what I'm intending to share, and not just stop at the face or stop at the whatever you assume I am trying to say in that moment. And we have to translate, the words that are, like you say, your Barack moment. I'm probably in my Barack moment right now, because there are so many times I just want to word vomit it. And you really do. You have to slow it down and think about it and process it before it comes out, so it's actually heard. So I would say, I've been at this about 13 or 14 years at this point. And my first 5 was the hardest but most rewarding time period of me finding who I need to be in my profession, and being able to be me in that profession, not letting the profession take over who I am, right? I have an opinion, I have an expertise, and I should be able to vocalize that professionally
Right.
if you step on my toes, right? So Cody, if you're wrong, I need to be able to tell you professionally, I disagree with that. And here's why.
Yeah.
I don't have to cut you, to do that. And you don't have to cut me to tell me the same. So I think that's where we go wrong is we just don't choose our words well. We don't think before we speak or act. Sometimes we just react because it's like, well, I know and you don't, and you're wrong. I need to let you know you're wrong. Okay, but there's a professional way to do that so that the words are actually heard. I literally had a conversation today with a colleague where we had to level set. No, you're not stepping on my toes. It's perfectly fine. You have a perspective and I have a perspective. I just told you you were wrong without cutting you.
Right.
It can be done. You know what I mean? But I'm going to tell you, I had to be intentional and I had to I had to have retrospective moments with myself after every situation that didn't go as planned, because maybe what I thought up here came out before I processed it. I had to have those moments with myself and say, now, Tonya, how could you have said that so it was heard?
Right.
Instead of just vomited on that person.
No, that was good. I have to go through my own filter. I'd be in my head, I'm like, what would Barack say in this moment? And once I get that answer, that's when I'm like, hey, Joe. I bring them in, boy. By the time we get done doing it, like, is that a compliment or all right? But in my head, I'm thinking, did you ever try that? No, but it's all good. So, Dr. DaNine,
Yep.
so we say all this.
Mm-hmm.
Some would argue, well, we have a system to eliminate the game, to eliminate all this. We have something in place. It's called HR. What should they be doing? Because obviously, if all this is still going on, either one or two things have to be true. There's such an intimidation, there's such a culture of intimidation that it basically makes HR powerless, or HR was never intended to solve the needs of human capital within an organization in the first place. And I hope either or is not true, but I'd rather, at least if it's a cultural thing, then it's systemic. If it's this body is a falsity, right, and it has really no power, then, what's the purpose for it? So what is wrong? Why you counsel, you consult, you set up these trainings that we're supposed to do, and we don't come, what is going on with HR?
Anytime we go into a company, corporation, Fortune 500, whatever it may be, one of the first things that we like to ask is probably a difficult question, and it is cost us some contracts. And I'm fine with that because not all money is good money. And I'm not selling my soul for anyone. Is basically, what is the culture of your HR and what is the power authority? Who do you answer to, etc.? Because what we find is this. It's something about definition and folk don't want to answer. There is, in my opinion, not a such thing as an HR, a universal HR. Every place you go, it's different. I've gone places where they say, well, HR is not your friend. I've had some HR people tell me that. HR is for the company to protect the company. I thought they protect the people. And I've had people say, no, it's for the people. So I think one of the things is going to be, how are we defining human resources? What components are a part of your particular human resource? Because every place is different. That goes back to culture. But that also goes to systemic isms, whether it's racism, sexism, whether it's oppression. How long has the company been in existence? Has it been in assistance or not? Are they beholden to the CEO, CFO? Is somebody who is the founder still got their hands in the pockets telling you what to do? Am I going to tell you every time you make a decision, well, Cody, you might need to be looking for a job? You say that. If I wouldn't do that if I were you. And so in all honesty, I don't think we can define or clearly define HR for any one place, because I think it's different. And I think that is the travesty. We go into different places expecting to have, whether it's human resources or the same level playing field, the same thing. And we have unarticulated expectations. No one asks and no one says. until there's a problem. See, most people, you go for orientation and you don't see it again until there's a problem. Someone calls you out your name, or where do I go for this? I need FMLA, something's going on. And then everything just explodes, the whole nine, right? And so when do you find out this information? And when, especially if it's orientation, how long was your orientation for your job? Who told you what? Was it so overwhelming that you don't remember anything anyway, because you're just so happy to be there? You did a Chris Rock moment, right? And so what's really going on with you and for you? And then I'll say this too. So many HR professionals are not trained in the areas where they are working. You might be HR, but if you're in a hospital system, it's different than if you are in higher education, academic healthcare, medicine, Fortune 500 company, technology company, software company. It's different. But everybody thinks, I can do that. So we want to be Bob and Bobina the builder, but we never built anything. And that is the problem. But we won't say anything. Y'all, you know it's true. If you had to think right now, don't say it out loud. How many people are a part of your organization or organization you know, and they sit in human resources, but they do anything but relate to humans? And they definitely do a disservice every opportunity that they get. And it's not even their fault. They don't have the necessary skill sets to do their jobs, or they're not empowered because they have to ask someone else. That's ineffectiveness. That's dysfunction. Yet we expect the dysfunctionals to be functional for us. Flag on the play. Flag on the play.
So how do we address it? We talk about this inarticulated concept of structure that, because you really can't speak to it, there's no definition, therefore it can operate outside the bounds in which it was ideally set up for, right? I think it's the best way to say it, right? So how, I mean, should there be like a law passed? Should there be like, you have to have so many requirements in this? Because what I've experienced is that, like you mentioned, it's only necessary when there's a problem. When the reality is, preventative measure is always the best case, right? So how come there's such a disconnect? If it's really only to curtail or to safeguard the company from any legal exposures, should we unionize then? I mean, should employees create their own internal system to protect the rights of the employees? Because I know that's dangerous. I know this is Chicago. I know you guys don't live in Chicago, but the C word, not C word, Chicago is the C word. Unions. Unions is the U word that you can't use, or else you'll be kicked out and fired immediately. So what should the human body do?
Okay, I lived in Western Pennsylvania, and I worked in a place where I was a manager / leader who was not unionized, but I had employees under me who were under 3 different unions. So imagine what that's like, right? Imagine being called into a meeting the morning of that everybody knew about, but you and all these union reps in. So I get it. But I also have a grandfather who was one of the first union stewards as a longshoreman when it wasn't popular in South Carolina. So for real, I've seen both sides, and I just believe that it can be powerfully helpful if it's done in the correct manner. I don't believe that's always necessary. This is what I believe. I believe any person, a new broom sweeps clean is what my great grandmother used to say. So if I'm coming in to organization X and I'm the new CEO, some of the first places I'm going to start talking, everybody wants to talk to their vice presidents. No, I'm going to HR. I'm going to ask some questions. If I'm not already with the corporation or company, I'm on the outside. In fact, during my interview process, what is the culture? How do you define, how you treat people? Tell me the functions of each area? Do you have training? Is it deep? Is there some diversity, equity, and inclusion training? What, I'm going to ask these questions because there's going to be expectations, and it's going to be in the first 30, 60, and 90 days. There are certain things that you got to establish, and it has to start at the top. Because what I know is if it doesn't, but it has to be authentic. I can't do it just because I come in and that's what I say. It has to be intrinsic. And so it has to be within the fabric and DNA of organizations. Now, I know there are people who will say, well, when you think about that and protecting the people, people don't. We are our own best natural resources. Companies want us to be there. They want us to be well because they want us to work because we make the money. They don't want you to be gone. They don't want you to be home. It costs more to recruit and retain you. If we lose you, then we got to do this all over again, right? You are a precious commodity. And so what we need to think about is how do we protect our assets? Because you are either an asset or you are a liability. So if we think about a business model, but many people don't think about it like that. So there are ways that we could go and do that. But when we put ineffective people in who are passive aggressive, who don't know their job, who are afraid and no one can tell them. And when Cody comes in or Tonya comes in or DaNine comes in and they think we might be, ruffling feathers or going to expose them. Guess what? What happens when you come in and you know just a little more? Or you get a little close to the CEO or somebody who might have some influence, or you can say you can solve something. You've been doing, somebody else was taking 20, it takes them 4 weeks to do what it take you 4 minutes. They can't let you. So we've got to be more effective and efficient, but we've got to be honest with what's going on or what's not going on. Do I believe unions are necessary? I believe in some places they are. But I believe systems are broken, and I don't care how many unions you have or don't have. If we aren't honest with what's going on internally and fix the systems, I don't care who you put in there. You can put Barack back. He was over all the United States of America. We fought that man over a tan suit. Let's be real. He couldn't wear a khaki suit.
No.
But somebody else can grab people by that. Okay, I'm gonna leave that one alone.
I had almost forgotten about that.
Khaki suit we spent time on. Where was it? So think about the things that we major in the minor about. Think about in our own areas, in our own lives. I mean, and my question is, don't answer this now out loud. But for anybody who watches this, how safe do you feel when you go to your human resources? Do you feel they're there for you? Do you feel like you can trust them? Do you feel protected? If the answer is no for any of those questions, the system is broken, and systemically, we each have an obligation to say something and do something, or we're bystanders and complicit. It's not okay. Because they're not going to do it. The police not going to police the police.
That's true. That's true. You preaching. I had a few scriptures. The law can't keep the law. What good is the law? We go New Testament. Jesus said, you swallow you strain at a gnat, but swallow a camel. I'm like, man, you all over there.
Yeah, you hit the nerve there. You hit the nerve. I was trying.
You almost took me to church. So, Tonya, we're talking about protecting assets.
Mm-hmm.
It does cost a lot to hire and recruit and train.
It does.
But turnover is a problem. With this cost, you think we could offset it by implementing the right things. We're talking about the reasons for turnover and the reasons why a lot of people look other ways. It's because there's a lack of attention being applied to the ones that are actually creating value. And value isn't one thing. So why is there a lack of protecting human capital, protecting assets? Because you would think, hey, I have somebody here, work hard, show up in the meeting, they give great energy, great responses, the customers love them. Maybe we should do something. You would think, right?
A little something in there.
Something. My mama would say common sense isn't always common, so
Amen.
what's going on? Why can't we protect truth, basically?
That is a loaded question, Cody Kelly. So my perspective as a leader, right? I have had I would say the fortunate job of leading people for several years in my career. I've jumped into leadership I talked earlier about the first 5 years of my career. Within those first 5 years, I was leading people. And did Tonya learn how to lead people in college? No, she did not.
Sure.
Is there a book that somebody gave me beforehand? Mm-mm. Was there training? There was some training, but it did not teach me how to care. And I think that's what's missing when it comes to retaining top talent and doing what's right for people, whether it's HR or the direct line manager or the CEO. If you don't have care for human beings as human beings and you treat them as commodities within your business just to complete a task to affect the bottom line, people don't want to be treated like robots.
Right.
If I treated my team like taskers every day and didn't care to ask, how are you every once in a while? How's the family doing? Oh, I just remembered you're getting married next month. Well, when are you going to take some time off? You've been working really hard. It takes energy to do that as a leader. But when you do it though, people stay much longer. Anytime I've had a leader that cared to ask me how I am occasionally, do I need any support, and not just, okay, here's the next 5 things I need you to do. I work harder for that leader when they care. I'm willing to give you more of my time because I know you would do it for me, right? I don't see leadership as just managing people, managing bodies, managing deliverables, managing tasks. I see each of my team members over the course of my many years of having direct reports as a part of my family. And I tell every new team member when they join my team, when I'm recruiting or when I'm hiring, we're looking to bring in another member of the team. Yes, I lead the team. I'm the head of the team. I'm here to support you at the end of the day. So we're going to work through challenges together. If you don't set that environment as a leader, I mean, people are going to attrit because at the end of the day, yeah, I might need the money. That's only going to get me through my first 60, 90 days. If you treat me like a number, a deliverable driver, and that's it, I'm going to be looking for the next thing where I can actually make money and feel like somebody cares that I'm there giving them my time and my talent. I tell people in interviews all the time, interviews are a two-way street. I'm interviewing you, but you're interviewing me.
Hello.
Do you want to work for me? You may not want to work for me if I'm not your cup of tea. You may have all the skills I need, but I may not have the skills you want in your next leader.
That's true.
So I think a lot of it, yes, HR plays a role, and I think Dr. DaNine covered that well. I think we do have in certain areas, and maybe, I don't know, from an educational standpoint, I obviously didn't go to school for that. I don't know how you earn that degree, for example, right? Like, what are people who grow up and decide to be HR professionals, generalists, or whatever, what do they learn in school? Maybe there's something there that we need to figure out from an educational standpoint. But like in the fiber of you as a human, whether you're in HR, you're recruiting people, you're managing people, leading people, you don't care about the people on your team at some level, you're not supposed to be their best friend. I'm a parent, right? I tell my kids all the time, I'm not your friend, I'm your mom. But I love you. And from a team perspective, I carry some of that mentality into my team. I want them to feel like, okay, you're spending a lot of time here. You should at least enjoy what you do and have an environment in which you can enjoy what you do. And I should be there to support you as your leader. When we don't do that, I think that's why people decide, like, okay, why am I here? Like, I might as well leave. You can't retain people that you don't care about, from my perspective.
Message. You cannot retain people that you don't care about. And with that, I want to thank my guests. They have been amazing. Tonya, Dr. DaNine, thank you so much. You guys are amazing. Where can they connect with you, Dr. DaNine? Where can they support you?
So one of the ways definitely is through my consulting business, the Nevaeh Group, heaven spelled backwards, and the NevaehGroup.com. We're on the web, and I love that we're a small, minority owned, to female, to Black female, and we have other associates business. So please feel free And I love that what Tonya said. You interview us, we interview you. It may not be a match. That's good. That's cool. We'll refer you to someone else. You know, we work well together. We have conversations. We're real. This is who we are. This is what we do, because it's about helping people be able to help themselves. It's empowerment. We want you to be the very best that you can be, whatever that may be for you, not for us. And Cody, thank you so much. It was wonderful opportunity. Thank you. It's so great to see brothers doing positive things. From the first time I met you, I'm just so proud of the things that you're doing and what you have done. So thank you so very much.
Dr. DaNine, thank you. I meant to have you on earlier. I got sidetracked with, I don't even know why I got sidetracked. I ain't going to sit there and lie. Support Dr. DaNine. Support the Nevaeh Group, NevaehGroup.com. Obviously, when you see this amazing, I always say support gets supported. Tonya, where can they connect with you?
You know, you can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Tonya Mompoint for short. And, you know, connect with me on anything related to leadership, related to strategy. Those are things that I am open to talking about, whether it's from a consultation standpoint or just a conversation. And Cody, thank you so much for inviting me to chat with you and Dr. DaNine about this topic. I mean, leadership is near and dear to my heart. I couldn't thank you more for having me on.
Anytime. Guys, connect with Dr. DaNine, connect with Tonya, connect with her on LinkedIn. That's her preferred platform. Don't find her on Instagram. Not that she's not there, but connect with her on LinkedIn. Guys, I always say support gets supported. If you want to keep seeing amazing influencers, amazing leaders, amazing gifts to humanity, to organizations, to the world, you know what you got to do? You got to subscribe when it pops up to the YouTube page of YouTube at CV Space K, and where all podcasts are heard. I appreciate my guests. I want to thank them again. Until next time, guys. Thanks. Hey, what's up, everybody? You like what you saw? Were you entertained? Were you informed? We want to keep seeing amazing content. Subscribe at the link below. YouTube, CV Space K. You connect where all podcasts are streaming. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor. Connect with me. I want to connect with you. Let's enjoy the ride.